Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. I cannot believe that we're into the month of August already, but I have the pleasure of connecting with someone on the West Coast, maybe even the best coast. And I have Leerah, but you might know her on Instagram as LeerahCosplays. Leerah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am so excited to once again be virtually back on the West Coast of things, getting to talk to talk to you and hang out and talk fandom.
Sounds like the best way to spend an afternoon.
Absolutely. Now you are into a number of things. We actually were just talking off the recording about the things that you're into. I mean, I sent out the thing and I'm like, "Hey, what are people into? What are you interested in?" And I'm just like, wow, you're into so much stuff that I could talk to you for just hours about the things that you're into, but we're going to try to cram it down into about an hour-ish, give or take.
Sounds like a plan. My life is TV and movies and fandom, so I'm way too into this stuff for my own good.
And that makes you a perfect guest for being on this podcast.
Thank you.
Now, the first thing that we're going to start off with, I guess, is because I'm here in Orlando, and I always like to label it as like, this is the intersection of like so many fandoms smushed under like the House of Mouse. Like Disney just owns it all at this point. So we're going to be talking like Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, all in one collective heap.
Sounds like a plan.
So, what are you into of the Marvel, Star Wars, Disney conglomeration? Like, where does your interest lie in that?
I mean, my favorite Marvel superhero is Spider-Man, always and forever. Captain America is high up on the list too. And then out of my cosplays, Wave, the first Filipino American Marvel superhero, is probably my most popular or one of my most populars. And I'm a big MCU girl through and through. And then with Star Wars, I love the prequels, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. Although the prequel trilogy, because that's what I grew up watching, that's what got me into Star Wars, is kind of something I'm really huge on. And then with Disney, Disney princesses, but also some of the Disney cartoons back from the 90s and even some of the Disney cartoons that have been, premiering recently. Like, I love Star versus the Forces of Evil. That's one of my most favorite shows of all time. And I also really enjoy The Owl House. I know I'm all over the place, but I just love a lot of different things. I love strong female characters. That's one of the things that draws me to certain things. And, not always the case, but for the most part, always drawn to strong female characters and always drawn to really strong stories. I'm a storyteller through and through. That's why I now work in entertainment because I love reading, I love watching, and I love writing stories. So those are the big things that I'm drawn to. So yeah. And then Mary Jane Watson, specifically from Spider-Man. I'm a very big MJ person.
Well, let's talk Spider-Man. And just out of curiosity, how did you first get into Spider-Man? Was it through the movies, the cartoon show, uh, the the comic books? Like, where did you get your start in the that realm of Spider-Verse?
Yeah, so for me, I have an older brother who's significantly older than me. So I desperately wanted to connect with him when I was, 5, 6. He's about 8 years older than me. So what I would do was I would steal his Spider-Man comic books and I would read them all the time. And we would talk about them. That's how we connected. So that's how I got into it. And then of course the Tobey Maguire films and then the Andrew Garfield films and continuing to read the comics. And then I'm really big on Tom Holland in the MCU, Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. I think he's a fantastic Peter Parker and a fantastic Spider-Man. And I don't think neither Toby nor Andrew have completely done that. I know plenty of people will disagree with me, but for me, Tom Holland is my Spider-Man and my Peter Parker.
I love it. I love that you're just into all of the spider, like all of it, just all spider all the time.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. He's always going to be my number one, honestly.
Now, with just out of curiosity, with the Tom Holland Spider-Man, what do you love about his representation of Peter and Spider-Man versus like the other two movie sets that they've already done?
I think for me, it's because Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Peter Parker feels completely fleshed out. His story feels fleshed out. I like the different take on it. And I feel that Tom Holland fits the age a lot better than Andrew and Toby did. Both Andrew and Toby definitely felt a lot more mature, which was strange because they were playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man technically in their teens. So and then I feel like they got the tone just right in the MCU version of Spider-Man. Again, I know many people will disagree with me, but for me, I think it was very the MCU Spider-Man films, Far From Home and Homecoming, feel very fresh. They feel young. They feel energized, and I really enjoyed that. And you know, maybe it's also because I have a little bit of a celebrity crush on Tom Holland, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but you know,
I can understand that. I can understand that. I always whenever I watched the Toby and the Andrew Garfield versions, the one thing that always stuck with me is, man, they really rushed through high school, and that was always because I like Peter in the high school age range, and dealing with like him being just a low level like superhero for the most part, like from the comics, when I was reading him, versus like the college or the grown up Peter Parker that we were starting to get.
yeah. Personally, I just really think Homecoming in particular is one of my most favorite movies. I've actually analyzed that movie, I think, twice. When I was in college, I wrote two different papers on it. Uh, so I've analyzed it backwards and forwards, and it's one of my, most favorite movies of all time.
That's really awesome. I think it's one of those movies where I need to watch it more. It's one that we haven't really just sat down and watched, but I'm also waiting, I guess, to see how the third movie plays out and then see them all collectively,
Yeah,
like as like that trilogy essentially.
yeah, I'm super hyped for the third movie. I think it's going to be really interesting. I've actually written an entire paper about Peter Parker's and the Jewish influence. I know, weird topic, but it was for a TV adaptation. It was for a film adaptation class, not TV. It was for a film adaptation class, and I explored all the Jewish influences of Peter Parker. And I saw some set pictures that they're going to have Peter Parker and Michelle celebrate Hanukkah. So that's really exciting.
Ooh, nice. I love it. I love representation of all kinds. So I'm that's news to me and I'm excited.
Yeah, always good to see great representation.
Now, what are your hopes just sticking with Spider-Man Tom Holland and the MCU? What are your hopes for him after like this third movie comes out? Do you would you like to see him continue? Do you want to see him like just show up in like in other movies? What would you love for his character?
I mean, I would love to see him continue on. I think there's a lot of potential there for him to keep going. But maybe as the character grows older and as Tom gets older, he can either become a leader in the Avengers or he can become a mentor. I'd love to see how he plays off some of the new characters being introduced to the universe, like Miss Marvel. I'd love to see him potentially team up with Miss Marvel. I know that's going to be on Disney Plus though, so I'm not sure if that will happen. I guess time will tell, depending on how Marvel and Disney move forward with their deal with Sony. We
Hmm.
shall see. We shall see.
Totally, yeah, totally understand that. Now with the MCU overall and with Marvel, what are you most looking forward to? Like that's on their list beyond Spider-Man, like the either the upcoming movies or the TV shows. What's on your radar of I want to see this?
In terms of Marvel,
Yes.
gotcha. Definitely, I'm really excited for the Miss Marvel Disney Plus show. And what else? Honestly, everything Marvel related, I'm always super hyped for. Let's see. Shang-Chi, super excited for Shang-Chi. Being half Chinese, very exciting stuff. and just I'm excited to see what they've got planned next.
Hmm.
And the agent I work for actually covers Marvel, so I might know some stuff, but I can't say anything.
Dun dun dun.
But there's lots of exciting things going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus, all those things. I think it's going to be really interesting. Oh, the Eternals! I'm really excited for the Eternals, honestly. But I think it's going to be really exciting to see how Marvel transitions with some of their properties being on Disney Plus's series and some of them being, on the big screen as films, especially with movie theaters starting to open up. I think that transition is going to be really interesting to watch. And there's going to be lots of different possibilities because there's so much that you can do in a series that you can't do in a film and vice versa. So,
Exactly. That was one of the quotes that I was reading, I think a week or two ago, that the movies are going to be where the big things happen, but the TV shows are where you're fleshing out more of the characters and the stories that maybe they can't tell within a 2-hour movie.
yeah, I think both films and TV shows have potential and they can go in so many different directions. So, for example, for WandaVision, that perfectly worked as a TV series. Same thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Whereas Endgame and Spider-Man Homecoming even work perfectly as movies. So every different project has the right platform.
Absolutely. And now, still staying within the umbrella with Star Wars, they're also doing the same thing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is doing, is where they're having their movies, but they're also having their TV shows. And you said, and because I heard it, you said that you got into Star Wars through the prequels.
Yep, those are what I grew up on. Those are the movies that I saw in theaters with my family. And I've always loved Padme Amidala. I've always been into costumes and seeing a powerful, strong woman, female character in a universe like the Star Wars universe hold her own and wear these dramatic outfits, but also really have a voice and also still have a really compelling love story. I just love so many things about Padme. So the prequels are near and dear to my heart. Hayden Christensen is also up there on the list of celebrity crushes. I have a whole PowerPoint that I've circulated to all my friends with all my different celebrity crushes. So he's up there. And I know I know a lot of people hate on the prequels, and I get it. The screenwriting isn't the best. Another unpopular opinion, but I think George Lucas is a fantastic world builder. He's a fantastic creator, but he's not the best screenwriter, and that's okay. um, but some of the lines do flop. But I think in terms of the story, in terms of the lore, in terms of all that world building, uh, and in terms of the technology as well, especially for the times, the prequels still hold up, in my opinion.
I'm nodding my head over here. You can't see it, but I'm nodding along with you because as like I grew up in the 80s. So I grew up with like the originals on videotape and grew up with at and when the prequels came out, I was in college. And it was interesting, and it's been interesting to see how the reception of the prequels at that point, transitioning to like 20 years later, where you have like the sequels that came out and people are looking back at the prequels and they're like, you know what, maybe we were too hard on the prequels, and they like the attitude towards them seems to have softened a lot, and now people are taking it and getting into more of it being like, okay, we maybe we went too hard on the prequels, and they've kind of accepted it into their universe at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I love the prequels. I'm glad to see that they're getting more love nowadays. That's a huge thing for me. And I don't love the sequel trilogy as much as I love the prequel trilogy, but I'm really excited to see all the stuff that Lucasfilm has planned for the future. I absolutely love The Mandalorian. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So much amazing world building, so much character development, and so much amazing puppeteering work. Uh,
Hmm.
I love puppets as well. More things to add to the list of things that I have been or am obsessed with. I really love animation, but I also really appreciate puppeteering. It's such a amazing art form, and I'm glad to see it coming back. Because one of the things that's sad with the prequels is that uh, they relied so much on computer animation instead of puppeteering as they did with the original trilogy. So glad to see
Hmm.
that Baby Yoda is being puppeteered now. Grogu is a puppet, and I think that's really cool.
That's definitely one of the things that I enjoy a lot is when they go back to some of like their like their classic way of doing things, especially with the puppeteering or having people in costume or in suits versus like just animated backgrounds or animated characters in the backgrounds. I th- the other thing, because I was not super high on the sequels, but I'm glad that they're going to start having like that unified vision that Marvel did, where they have like the head showrunners and they're tying things together and they're integrating stories from one story to like the next in different shows, so that way it's not a, well, I don't know what this person did, but I'm going to do this thing and hope it works out.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the downfalls of George Lucas's approach to the prequels is that he did so much of it by himself. And I do think a lot of the times, making any movie, making any show, you got to be collaborative. So I'm glad to see that Lucasfilm is kind of opening up their world more to different writers and collaborators. I do want to see John Favreau collaborate with more women of color and more people of color on The Mandalorian. I think they need a co-writer on that show who's a person of color just to balance out the room between him and Dave Filoni. So
Hmm.
that's just a small quip, just a small gripe. Uh, if they want, a showrunner's assistant, I would happily uh, do it. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where Marvel and Lucasfilm are going to go now that Disney Plus is a thing. I think it's really exciting, and um, there's so many possibilities.
Just out of curiosity, if you were going to pitch a Star Wars show, what would you want to have on screen? What would your ideal thing be or project be?
That's so hard, honestly, because I love so many different things from Lucasfilm. You know what I would love to see, and this is an idea that's already been thrown out on the internet so many different times, but I'm just going to say I'd love to see Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker on a Disney Plus series. I think that would be so much fun. I think he'd do a really good job, honestly. So I would love to see a Luke Skywalker, in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. I'd love to see, you know, his story and what happens in between.
I saw that. I saw that going around. I was like, I can see it. I can see it. And he's already doing work on the Marvel side. I'm sure they could just like slip in an additional page into the contract and be like, "Hey, let's sign you up for another like 9 or 10 years of working with us."
Yeah, honestly, Sebastian Stan I think is super talented. So very excited to see what he does too, because he's got so many projects going on. Pam and Tommy on Hulu. He's got an independent film coming out. So, and then I really am hoping for season 2 on Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I love that show and I think there's so much more that they could do with it. So we shall see. I haven't heard any renewal plans for that or WandaVision, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm waiting because I know obviously with the pandemic and everything getting pushed back at least a year to a year and a half, that they've got to shake whatever out with like their movie schedules and TV schedules and kind of get caught up again. It is such a weird year of not having anything Marvel released during 2020.
Yeah, honestly, that was a sad, sad time, but they have definitely ramped it up for 2021. So
They have indeed. Now, I can't leave Marvel and Star Wars without talking about Disney, which is like the king of all things at this point. And I know you said you're into Disney princesses, but I also know that you're into a number of other like classic shows and stuff like around that. So what is Disney to you? Whether it's the movies, cartoon shows, what do you have for Disney?
All over the place, honestly. So I was born in '98, so I grew up with a lot of those Disney Channel shows and a lot of Disney Channel original movies. But I also grew up in Hong Kong, which meant that a ton of stuff was super delayed. So I also grew up with a lot of the '90s Disney, cartoon shows: Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Doug, which my brother loves. What else? Tailspin, DuckTales, all those things. So I'm just a big fan of Disney, all in all. I also love the parks. As I said, I grew up in Hong Kong. I think I was around 7 when Hong Kong Disneyland opened. So I have basically grown up in that park. It's one of my
Oh my
favorite.
goodness.
It's one of my favorite Disney parks in the world. And again, biased because it's my home park. It's on the smaller side. Some people would say there's not a ton of coasters, not a lot of this, but for me, I have a lot of childhood memories in that park because I I went so many times as a kid. I've been quite a few times as an adult, and I think it's an amazing park. So I also love the parks. I love you know the stuff I grew up with, and I love Marvel, Lucasfilm, and Disney princesses. And of course, one of my favorite shows of all time is Star versus the Forces of Evil, which I don't think gets enough love, honestly.
I think you may be the first person I've ever talked to that's been to Hong Kong Disney.
That is such a shame. I think it's such a fantastic park. It's a park you can get done in one day, which I think actually has its merits.
Yeah, I mean, I since I live in Orlando, I've been to the Disney World, parks and whatnot, and it's definitely certain parks. There's no way you can get them done in a day, depending on when you go and when all the lines and trying to get stuff accomplished. It's just not happening.
Yeah, honestly, that's the nice thing about Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland. It's controlled. It's you know and I think it's really pretty, honestly. And there's some really cool rides. The Iron Man experience is super awesome. They've got the Ant Man ride. They've got uh, Mystic Manor, which is kind of a haunted mansion type thing, but it's really cool and it's very nice and cold. So on those really, really hot days, you can go inside and cool down, which very necessary here in Hong Kong. We love air conditioning. Uh, so yeah, I'm just a big Disney kid through and through. I made my mom take me to see all the re-releases of Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and Little Mermaid in movie theaters. I know way too much Disney trivia for my own good.
But that works out if they have Disney trivia night at places, and you can just go in there and sweep the floor.
Yeah, Even as a kid, I used to watch all the animated movies backwards and forwards and focus on, all the little things about the animation. And, I used to sing all the songs all the time. So very much a Disney kid.
I love that you threw out that you grew up like watching Chippendale Rescue Rangers and Tailspin and those shows, because those were the shows I was coming home to in high school and watching, like before I started my high school homework. It was like those shows that were getting me through that like afternoon lull of stuff. And those were such great shows to watch back then.
They still hold up too. And, as much as I love the reboot of DuckTales, I think it's really well done. And I'm so sad that uh, it's not been renewed for more seasons because I think it was fantastic. But the original version of DuckTales still has a special place in my heart because I would wake up at 5 a.m. on Saturdays to watch DuckTales and Chippendale Rescue Rangers on TV. That's how intense I was and how intense I still am.
I miss that because my like I have 3 kids, and they're kind of at the age where they would be like into those kind of shows, but there is no more really 6 a.m. cartoons for them to wake up and go to. They just get on their device or their laptops, and they just fire up Netflix or Disney Plus, and they watch whatever they want. And I feel like that's just a lost childhood thing of, you know gotta wake up and sneak to the TV and get my cartoons on before anyone else is awake.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the sad thing about streaming. As great as streaming is, the thing about streaming is you can no longer there's no longer that rush to catch the show on time. There's no longer planning my day to catch the show, my favorite TV show when it shows at 7 p.m. or at prime time, or if it shows in the daytime. That's kind of been lost with streaming. That excitement and that let's all run to the bathroom, let's all get snacks before during commercial breaks.
Yeah, I used to tell people on certain nights, like, don't call me after 8 o'clock because I'm watching my shows. Like, because there's no such thing as reruns back then. You either caught it or videotaped it, or that was it, and you hope to maybe catch it in the summer.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's
my
been lost with
goodness.
streaming. But streaming is also fantastic. I would not be able to binge all 7 seasons of Gilmore Girls without Netflix.
Exactly. And that's a positive. You need that. And you need to be able to have access to these shows and go back and check out things that you might have missed out on.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max. I can't even keep up sometimes with all the different streaming services, but I pretty much have them all at this point.
I feel that pain. That pain of, okay, what am I going to watch today? There's too many choices. I can't pick.
Honestly.
As far as Disney goes, I know you mentioned Disney princesses. Who's your favorite? Who do you go to more than the others as far as the love of the Disney princess goes?
Oh, that is honestly really difficult. It's between three. It really depends on the day and how I feel, but the big three Disney princesses that I love growing up and still love today are Belle, because I'm a bookworm through and through. I love to read, and I love Beauty and the Beast. It's probably my all-time favorite film. I think it's gorgeous. The animated version. I think the animated
Hmm.
version is gorgeous. And Belle is such a wonderful role model. So love Belle. I also love Ariel, and I love Jasmine. So those three were my big ones growing up, and they're still big today. A lot of people expect me to love Mulan because I'm half Chinese. I like her, but she's not my favorite. And a recent favorite has been Moana's up there for me. I've cosplayed Moana a number of times, and I love that movie, and I love her story, and I love her costume, of course. And then I really enjoyed Raya and the Last Dragon. Uh, that film wasn't perfect, but definitely has potential, and I'd love to see Disney turn that into a series. I think it has a lot of potential as a series.
That's the one movie I haven't seen yet is Raya, just because of the premiere access. But
Totally
I saw that
understood.
yeah, I saw it switched over now, so it's free for anyone. So if you're listening, it's free at this point. So I think it's going to be on one of our family movie nights coming up. I'm going to choose it as my choice so we can watch it.
Got it. Yeah, it's a great one. I think the storytelling and the building has so much potential, and it's a beautiful film. Lots of great Southeast Asian representation. Lots of great LGBTQ plus representation. Although I would have loved to see more Southeast Asian voice actors in the roles. There were a lot of East Asian voice actors, which is a little problematic, but all in all, really gorgeous film. And I think it needs the series treatment because there's so much to that world that they didn't get to explore in the film. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'd love to see it be a series, but Disney has so many series on their back end that they're trying to pump out. So we shall see if it will happen.
Yeah, as long as they keep the same kind of quality versus maybe staying away from the quality that they did in the 2000s with all those direct to video movies, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I actually kind of like dig some of the direct video movies. I mean, the Beauty and the Beast Christmas, Enchanted Christmas, thought that was really sweet when I was growing up.
Yeah, I think the only one I enjoyed was Return of Jafar.
Oh
Um,
yes.
but but then like the Cinderella 2 and the Cinderella 3, and then there's just like and I think Mulan 2 was okay, but it wasn't the greatest. But there's definitely some ones where I was like, why? Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, I mean, some of them were not so great, but I like to see the good in a lot of things. Even, you know, crappy movies. There's an audience for that. So Cinderella 3
Eh,
was entertaining. Also, Little Mermaid 2. I have a soft spot for Little Mermaid 2. I love Melody.
yes, Melody, the overlooked child at this point. No
Um,
one remembers
Nobody
her.
remembers her, and I don't know. I think that story was sweet. It's a sweet mother-daughter story. Lots of
Hmm.
drama, but
Yep.
what mother-daughter story does not have drama?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, out of the Marvel, Disney, Star Wars universe, if they were like, Leerah, you can have one of them. Which one would you like gravitate towards just to be in control of and have the power of making decisions?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's hard to pick. It's like my heart belongs to all three a little bit, but I think with my, I think I'd have to go with Lucasfilm. I think that'd be really exciting to have a spin on. So it's my big dream is to work for a Lucasfilm or Marvel. I love Disney, but I think I have a lot more potential and more ideas for Marvel and Lucasfilm. And between those two, Lucasfilm is amazing, and I'd love the opportunity to work and develop projects for them. That'd be really cool.
That was my choice too. I was thinking about it after
Manifestation
the
time.
question. I was like, there's so many different stories I could tell that I might not be able to tell under like the Marvel umbrella or the in the Disney world, but Star Wars, I could do a lot with Star Wars.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with Star Wars. There's so many different avenues you can go on, so many different stories to explore, so many different worlds to go on. I think The Mandalorian did a great job at that, exploring all the different worlds within the Star Wars universe. And I just want to see more of that, and I want to be part of more of that. And there's so many different ways you can go. So,
Now, you had mentioned a show, and I want to talk about it for a little bit, just because I'm not familiar with it, but it's very high on your list of shows that you're into, and you even said that the main character, you think she is cooler than Sailor Moon. Sorry, not sorry, and that's totally cool. Um, is a Star versus the Forces of Evil as the show, and then you love Star Butterfly.
yeah, Star Butterfly is the main character. So, yeah, I love that show. I think, first of all, she's got so many cool outfits. So, she's got that beat out on Sailor Moon. I love Sailor Moon too. I grew up on Sailor Moon. Like, I'm not huge on anime, but Sailor Moon is probably one of the few animes that I'm really, really into. But for me, Star versus the Forces of Evil, which took direct inspiration from Sailor Moon. But Star, what's really fun about Star is that the main character is quirky. She's a little weird. She's a little out there. She's not perfect. She's a little awkward too, but she's also powerful, and she's got all these amazing powers, and she's also got a great heart. And I think the show is just so much fun, um, and it definitely is reminiscent of some of those earlier Disney Channel cartoons that I grew up on, like DuckTales and Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and that is just so much fun, and there's so much adventure, and it's you know and even though I'm not in middle school or anything, even though when I was watching it I was in college, uh, I still felt that the show, I could relate to the show. I could relate to a lot of Stars, um, you know, the things that she was going through in terms of, you know, her trying to decide where she belongs in the world, whether she belongs in her home kingdom of Muni or on Earth, with the friends that she's made. I grew up in Hong Kong and then went to New York for college, so I very much related to that experience of feeling like I'm between two different, essentially worlds, two different places. So that's why I feel so drawn to Star, and also all the cool outfits and the long blonde wig that I get to wear when I cosplay her. Super fun.
I've not seen the show. I think you may be the first person I've ever talked to about it, but I've heard good things. I guess I just need to sit down and watch the show.
You really should. I think it's a really great show. It's really fun. It's kind of in the vein of Steven Universe and Adventure Time and all those, really popular cartoons of the present. But it's also got its own flair. It's got, it's just really fun. It's really easy to watch.
Okay, I'll have to check it out, especially if it's on Disney and I have Disney Plus. Therefore, I can watch it.
Exactly. Exactly.
It makes life a lot easier.
It really does. Gotta love Disney Plus, one of the best streaming services that is not available in Hong Kong, so I have to use a VPN.
I've heard there. I think I saw somebody posting on Twitter that they were trying to get Disney Plus available, but that they were not able to. I think I don't know where they were overseas. They're definitely in one of the Asian countries, but they couldn't access it even through their VPN. They weren't able to get it, and I was like, "That's so sad."
VPNs are tricky sometimes. What's unfortunate about like a lot of there's so much politics behind these streaming services, unfortunately. Some shows are owned by different streaming services depending on the country, so it all gets super complicated.
That's the thing. Like, it starts getting into like the distribution methods and who has the contracts,
Yep.
and oh gosh,
Who
it was
dealt with
always
who,
something.
when that deal expires, how that deal was crafted, all the fun stuff that most of the general audience does not realize goes into making a TV show, movie, or podcast that I deal with
I
on a daily basis.
Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. That must be a lot.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's really fun.
You had mentioned that like one of your favorite characters that you love is Star Butterfly, but going to back to the Marvel universe just for a moment, one of the other characters that you love is Mary Jane Watson. What is it about Mary Jane that you love?
I love that she's such a spitfire, and I think she's so underrated. I mean, there's a lot of love for Mary Jane, but most of the love comes because she has red hair and she's really, hot, all that stuff. But if you read the comics, if you go deep into her story, there's actually quite a bit of depth to her character. Depth that we did not see in the Raimi version of Spider-Man. And, I think we saw quite a bit of depth to Mary Jane in the PS4 Spider-Man games. I really enjoyed the portrayal of Mary Jane in the games, but sad to say, I don't think we've quite seen a fully fleshed out version of MJ in any of the Raimi films. And then I know Michelle Jones, played by Zendaya, is technically the MCU's version of Mary Jane, but it doesn't quite feel right to me. So, I would like to see a version of Mary Jane in the MCU films. That could be interesting, maybe a little bit too far considering that they've nicknamed Michelle MJ, but we could write it in. Or I could write it in. Marvel called me. But you know, there's so much depth to her. There's so many reasons why in the comics she and Peter were drawn to each other and why they loved each other. And then, of course, the heartbreaking story of One Day More. I hate that so much. But
Hmm.
I think there's a surprising amount of depth to her that a lot of people don't realize. And then for me, I just really enjoy cosplaying her. She was my first cosplay. I've cosplayed different versions of her. I have different versions of her planned. I love my MJ Gwenpool cosplay. That's so much fun to wear, even though there's so many different parts and my back hurts because of the stuff that I wear on my back, but the swords that I wear on my back are not super easy to get around in. But you know, the things that I will sacrifice for cosplay. But I think there's just so many different things that writers could potentially do with MJ's character and with MJ and Peter's relationship, and even just MJ on her own. You know, Gwen is Gwen's gotten her spotlight. I think the Amazing Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield did and Emma Stone did a great job with Gwen. But yeah, I just want to see more from MJ. I think she deserves a little more, and always got a soft spot for her.
I can totally understand that. I know that there's a run of comics that they did back in, oh gosh, like the 2000s, and it went for a
Yeah,
while. Is Ultimate Spider-Man, where they did like a re-envisioning of the Spider-Verse, and I really loved how Mary Jane was portrayed there. I totally agree with like the one more day aspect of like the 616 Mary Jane. I hated that. I was like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why do you hate people?
honestly, that was the worst. The absolute worst. Uh, yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man did a great spin on it, and I'd love to. And the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series did a pretty good job with MJ, I think. But a lot of people care about those three movie trilogies. Uh,
Hmm.
we care about Tobey Maguire. We care Andrew Garfield's wasn't a trilogy, but we care about Andrew Garfield, and we care about Tom Holland. My big thing is John Watts call me to write a Mary Jane film. I'd totally be on that. It's one of the things I'm planning to do when I have more free time. And when I'm not,
Free time, what's that?
I know, right? Free time that I will instead spend watching all the episodes of Gilmore Girls. But
Oh, I did want to ask before we talk about cosplay. I did want to ask about a topic that I feel that you and I overlap on, which is unscripted reality TV.
oh yes,
And you specifically mentioned that you love 90 Day Fiance, and it is one of my guilty pleasures.
oh my gosh, yes. I I love me some 90 Day Fiance. Honestly, it is such a great show to watch. When it was especially fun for me to watch when I was in college. I did not have any brain cells for anything more complicated than uh, 90 Day Fiance, so I just watched 90 Day Fiance, and beautiful, beautiful show. What a
and
show!
so
What a show to make you feel like you're smart.
I'm just when it comes to 90 Day Fiance, half the time I'm like, I don't know how that they were able to complete all the paperwork that goes into it to
Honestly, being
and
a
have
green
the
card
money.
holder myself, like that paperwork can take a lot of brain cells.
It boggles the mind at times. I'm like, you don't do anything for a job, but yet you're sponsoring someone to come over here and saying that you can take care of them for 10 years. I don't I don't know how you're doing that, but it's magic.
Truly magic, truly, truly magic. Oh, it's a fun one. It's genuinely such a fun show to watch. All the drama makes me feel so much better about my life because I don't have any drama. Uh, at least I don't have any boy drama uh, at the moment. So sometimes it's just fun to watch.
And I will say on the flip side of reality unscripted TV that you love, we started watching Great British Bake Off last year
Oh
just
my
as
gosh, so
a
much
very
fun.
it's fun, but it's not mean, and that's what I think we liked it, especially last year when we were like just stuck in the house and not going anywhere. Is like we just need a nice show. It's just they're baking and they're not even professionals. They're just like us, except they do it more than we do.
Yeah, it's so fun, and I love Mary Berry, and I love Paul Hollywood as well. So
Yeah, it's a nice show. It's a very lighthearted, nice, and just seeing the different things that people bake, and I'm like, Could I do that? Maybe I could.
Maybe I
I don't
could.
know. Maybe I could. Now, Leerah, the way that I found you, and I find a lot of people this way, is through Instagram, because people that cosplay put pictures up on Instagram, and then people share those out with the world, and I fell in love with the cosplays that you did,
Well, thank
and
you.
I have to always ask, like, how did you get interested in doing cosplay? Like, what was the draw for it for you?
You know, I've always loved costumes, and I'm huge on Halloween. Growing up, I think I've even posted some of these pictures on my cosplay Instagram, but I love costumes. Like, I love putting on costumes. I was also a musical theater kid, so like costumes were my life. And I've always been drawn to costumes that I've seen in movies and TV shows that I've watched, like all that good stuff. But I didn't get into cosplay until I think I was a freshman in college. I thought, hey, let's try putting together a Mary Jane Watson costume together for Halloween. So I put that together. And then my best friend, their name is Paladin of Stars, Kayla. Uh, they told me about New York Comic Con, and I was like, "What's that? That sounds awesome!" And they're like, "I go every year. You should come with." Uh, Cosplay during it. So that's where I technically first started my cosplay journey. I think it was 2017, October 2017. I cosplayed MJ Watson and Lilo from Lilo and Stitch that weekend. And I've been hooked ever since, spending way too much money that I do not necessarily have to spend, but you know, I'm obsessed. And I am really big on cosplaying characters that I love and not focusing too much on who I look like. Although that is,
Hmm.
of course, a big part of the cosplay world, who people look like. But for me, I go off of characters that I love. That's the most important thing for me. And of course, I'm big into fashion, but not the kind of fashion that my mom wishes I was into. But, I love wearing outfits that I want to wear. And so many of the cosplays, all the cosplays that I wear, that I've worn and that I'm planning to do, are things that I absolutely love. Star Butterfly. I definitely am not a bleach blonde, magical girl, but I put on that wig, put on that dress, and I transform. I think it's a fantastic thing, and it's really improved my self confidence and my own body image. And it's a way for me to express myself. I've learned how to do wig styling, how to make props, how to sew, you know, all those good things.
And you say that you choose the characters that you love, and I absolutely, when I'm scrolling through, I see a number of wonderful characters. I see, like, Miss Marvel and Kiki and Lilo and Kim Possible,
Oh, Kim Possible's
and
a favorite. I forgot to mention Kim Possible and American Dragon, Jake Long. Those were huge shows for me growing up.
yeah, you've got a number of wonderful, the Christmas Bell. You've got Moana, like you had mentioned previously when we were talking. I see that you even have a Tom Holland picture,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
dressed as MJ, and that smile. There
I've
are
met Tom
times
Holland
when
twice.
there are times when you can tell, like, the energy just through the picture, and it's that picture is just
I
outstanding.
thought I was going to cry. It was a time. Um, that was a day. That was a glorious, glorious day.
And then you got your Aerith and Padme and Star Butterfly and Chun Li.
Oh yeah.
You've got a lot of characters, and it just the Katara with the ribbons, which is always awesome to see
Oh, that
people
was
doing that.
fun.
Oh my gosh, you just have such wonderful cosplays.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's something that I haven't been able to do much in the pandemic, but I'm really excited to move out to LA and to meet new people in the cosplay community and go back to going to cons. The big one that I've got planned is Star Wars Celebration. So I've got basically more Padme planned for that. Like, it's going to be probably a weekend of lots of Padme, and probably an AU version of Grogu because I love Grogu. So I will be a cute version of Grogu. And probably Leia. I need to do a Leia cosplay because I actually dressed as Leia way back when, probably how many? Like probably more than 10 years ago. uh, I dressed up as Leia for Halloween, and I got to bring that back. You know, maybe wear my awful looking glasses in a few pictures for the kicks.
Now with cosplay, I know that you said that you do it based on the characters that you love, and you've got a number of characters out here that you love. Like, do you have any favorites? Are there ones where you're like, you know what, this is like the ones that represent me the most as a person and as a cosplayer?
I don't like picking favorites with my cosplays a lot of the time, but it's really hard. I mean, Star Butterfly. I think I really relate to Star Butterfly and her quirkiness and her not quite fitting in either of the places that she technically belongs to and all of that. So I love cosplaying her. She's up there for me. MJ, of course, especially my MJ Gwenpool. Uh, I've met David Nakayama several times, the artist who drew the concept for MJ Gwenpool. So that cosplay has a special place in my heart. Wave, I've also met Greg Pak and a number of the artists who drew, the cover art with Wave on it. So Wave is very important to me. Moana as well, just because I love meeting kids when I'm in Moana, because they see me as Moana, and there's something so special about that. To be recognized as a Disney princess, it's not something that I thought was possible when I was growing up, because none of the Disney princesses quite looked like me. Guess the closest was Mulan, but I'm darker skinned than Mulan, so even that wasn't the perfect option. Jasmine is Middle Eastern, so I didn't look like the quote unquote canon version of any of the Disney princesses growing up. But now in Moana, I am able to look like a quote unquote canon version, which shouldn't be that important, but you know, there's something special about that. And I love Moana as a character too, so there's that, of
A-
course.
Absolutely. Beyond the Star Wars costumes that you're going to work on for Celebration, is there anything on your list of things that your goal for maybe this year or next year, of characters that you haven't done yet? Like, what's on your list of people or characters for cosplay?
Man, there's a whole list. I'm finally going to do Jasmine. So, I have you seen the live action version of Aladdin?
Hmm.
Do you remember at the end in the wedding scene with the end
Yes.
credits? I'm doing
Yep.
that her wedding dress because I love that wedding dress. So even though I'm not getting married anytime soon, I do not care. um, I had that dress made, and I think it's going to be amazing. So that's definitely in the cards. Star Butterfly wears this cherry pie themed dress, so doing that as well. And then for new characters, things always pop up that I want to do. I definitely want to do Belle's yellow gown one day. The big ball gown. That's definitely
Hmm.
in the cards. I can't believe I haven't done it. I guess I've just been waiting for the right time, right feeling, and I think when I get back to LA, that will be the time to start planning that and to make that really happen. Ooh, I really got into Invincible on Amazon. That really great animated series on Amazon.
Yep.
Really fun. Really want to cosplay Adam Eve. Uh,
Yes.
it's gonna be really fun. Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, based on the set pictures alone. Really want to do that. So that's in the cards. Yeah, tons of stuff going on. More MJ outfits, honestly. I want to do the classic black top, khaki pants MJ from the
Hmm.
comics with the bangs. Can't believe I haven't done that either because I literally have like 5 different shirts that could work for it. Um, I could just pull things out of my closet and bam. But that's in the cards. Spinneret, MJ's superhero. That's one thing that I want to see in a TV show or in a movie. Spinneret. We gotta have MJ as Spinneret. Renew Your Vows. Great comics. So I'd love to do that. Black Cat. Felicia Hardy is not my favorite Spider-Girl, but I like her a lot. So I'd love to do the PS4 version of Black Cat.
Okay.
I could just go on forever. But those are the ones that are coming to mind right now. Oh, and Kim Possible's cheer outfit. I've had that in the works for forever. Just been trying to gain the confidence to wear it in public. So that's going to happen eventually. I have all the things planned for that. And I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of creeps trailing after me in that, but I will deal with it.
That's a lot of great options and choices. I'm excited to see what you do and what comes first and second and what gets posted. Because I know that I've enjoyed scrolling through your Instagram and checking out like all the work that you do and some of the really cool photo shoots that you've done. You just have a lot of great cosplay that I know that you can just tell through the pictures how much fun that you are having doing it.
That's the most important thing for me. I don't do any of this for money. I definitely don't get paid for any of this. It's really, it's my outlet. It's, something that I really do for fun and I really enjoy it. That's the big thing for me. That's why I do cosplay. If I didn't enjoy it anymore, I wouldn't do it. But I absolutely love it. I love all the friends that I've made, all the experiences that I've had. I mean, I've gotten to meet, Tom Holland in my MJ cosplay. I've gotten to meet Will Friedle dressed up as Kim Possible. All those cool things. I've gotten to make so many friends in this community. So for me, cosplay is such a big part of my life. And I can't wait to get back into doing it when I get back to LA. Because right now I'm in Hong Kong with my parents, but when I get back to LA, full speed ahead.
There you go. Absolutely. Now, for people that have listened to this episode and they want to see your cosplay work or they want to say, hey, I really want to talk about Star Wars prequels or talk about Spider-Man and stuff from the podcast, where can people find you to follow you out there on the big internet world?
Yeah, so follow me on LeerahCosplays, Leerah Cosplays on Instagram. Feel free to message me anytime. I am really responsive to messages. I'm always happy to talk. I'm always happy to fangirl with anybody over pretty much everything out there. Right now, my big thing is Gilmore Girls and Dash and Lily and, everything Marvel, everything Lucasfilm, everything Disney, all day, every day. So, feel free to come, hit me up. Always happy to chat.
That's right. And Lucasfilm or Marvel, if you've listened to this, give Leerah a message and let her know that you want her, because that would be really wonderful.
Manifestation time. I always say if you say it out into the world, it will happen. So that's the big goal. So hopefully one day write the Mary Jane Watson movie of my dreams, or the Wave Pearl Pangan movie of my dreams. That'd be really cool.
Well, let's you got it manifested. Let's get it happening. And I want to say, Leerah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule and for talking to me about the stuff you love. And you have so much more. I'm going to put you back on my list. That way, eventually we circle back to have more conversations.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.